Hey, just coming in for round two, take two. Just having some connection issues. So, welcome to episode 10 of Conversations with a Passion Pilgrim, where I like to interview real people from real life about what the struggle taught them and why living in their truth matters. So, today I'm inviting on Dan Megson, who's calling in from around Sydney, Australia. He's originally from London, and I felt like a really kind of deep brotherhood kind of bond with him because of the way that he speaks on his social media account. And just, I'm assuming in real life as well, he just likes to have conversations like this, like just as if he's chatting to a buddy, and he's got this like brightness and lightness about him that he loves to share. And what really resonated with me is the way that he has a long history of trauma and darkness, and how he turns all of those things into fuel to really use the pain as fuel to rise into the kind of life that he desires. And he's really managed to turn his life around from really kind of entering life with the cards against him and choosing to live a life that feels good. So I'm just waiting for him to come on, and hopefully the connection works this time and we can get him on. I can introduce him to you. But yeah, I found him basically because I always move around so much when I'm talking, my like anxious energy. Basically, I stumbled across his page just because it was shared on somebody else's page, and he had a 3-minute like pre-New Year's IGTV, and he was just chatting about, in 2020, he kind of fell off the wagon of his sobriety, and then got back on, and he really learned a lot in 2020 and was just really like raw and real about like, yeah, this is what's going on, and like, this is what I've been doing about it, and I'm a real human. And I really resonated with that because it's really refreshing for me as somebody who, I love to speak my mind, but also I have fears and worries and anxieties of my own. And to have somebody just like have a raw account of what's been going on, I felt like he'd be able to really offer this community something really valuable in just his perspective and the way that he goes through life. So I'm just waiting for him to join in now. Hopefully he comes on. There he is. So yeah, just request to join Dan, and hopefully it works out this time. Oh, there we go. Come on. And just waiting. Hey.
Hey, how are you? We got there in the end.
Yeah, we got there. It's all good.
We got there, yeah.
Yeah, how are you?
An amazing intro. Thank you. Very kind words. Some big bridges to fill there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was really easy actually because you have so much to talk. Like you have so much that shapes who you are, and really cool because I had to write a bio, and then the article actually that I took your bio from, I was like, I literally couldn't have said it better myself, and so I'm just gonna like paraphrase this and quote her because it sounds like you guys had a really powerful interview.
And that one was from
that was from Penelope Morgan.
Yeah, Penelope Morgan. Yeah, she's a fantastic human being also.
Yeah, it sounded like a training session together or something, and just like really bonded. And yeah.
So background on that, I started training her dad, as her 70-year-old dad was my client, and then I ended up becoming the PT for the family. So I trained her, I trained her brother, I trained her dad, and we just kind of bonded, and they became my surrogate family from Australia, which was really cool. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's so uplifting. I have a similar story with online healing. I see a bunch of members in the family, and it's actually like such an honor to like kind of have that holistic perspective and be welcomed in. So that's sweet that they did that.
It was cool.
Yeah. Cool. So basically, like, I don't even know where to start.
Where do we start?
Get right to it and go deep right away, because I think the thing I loved, and I was explaining it in the intro, and I'll just say it again, the thing I love about you is just the way that you are who you are. You're like, hey, I'm Dan, this is what's up. Like, I don't even know if you have the bone inside of you that lies or has a filter or anything like that. Like, there's just this realness and pureness in your energy that I totally admire as somebody who's been called too intense my whole life. I see in you as another.
It can get you into some tricky situations, right? So people either they love it because you're just so direct and there's no reading between the lines. This is how it is. But other people get freaked out by it, and they can be turned off from you as an individual, because I guess we live in a world now where everyone just puts on face, right? And they don't really talk about what's going on. They don't talk about their feelings. They're ashamed of what's going on. And when people are confronted with someone that is so open and ready to just say it how it is, it can be confronting for people.
Yeah, totally confronting. And so, yeah, I mean, I admire that in you, because I'm also a bit of a go big or go home person, and finding that balance in my life has been my life's work. And I know for you,
100%.
yeah, like, you know, and it's funny because like the same background of like struggles with addiction and struggles with like aggression and all these types of things. Like I just,
You're in or you're out, right? It's
yeah,
all or nothing.
all the time.
It's the addictive mindset. We find something, we latch onto it, and we go wholeheartedly 100 miles an hour until it comes to a crashing halt, you know. And usually it's off the deep end. But yeah, as you said, it's been a lifelong search and work on trying to find balance and trying not to burn myself out on the things that I love, you know.
Yeah.
And it's continuous work.
Yeah, and I think so when you have an extreme personality like that, there's so much, and what I've known for myself, and you know, I interviewed my brother last month who has an extreme addiction
Amazing
back.
story.
Yeah, so cool, hey? And
Yeah.
funny because like, I mean, I have three brothers, and so I kind of feel like a little bit of a brother-sister connection with you, because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I totally resonate with this dude. And
Well, you've lived it, right? So your brother's story, same but different. And
yeah,
you was on the other end of it, right? So you saw how that impacted your family and how it impacted you, and you know, and having lived through that from someone that's such a close family member like a brother, it enables you to have empathy for others that have been through the ringer themselves. I think people are too quick to point people that are suffering from addiction and say, you're a bad person. Do you know what I mean? And they don't look beyond what the stereotype for being an addict is, and look at the suffering and the hurt that individual might be going through that's driven them to that point. You know, and I
yeah.
think it's we need more people like you, more people that have empathy that for those that are struggling, you know, instead of just turning your back on it and walking away.
Yeah, thank you. And so I thank you for that compliment. And at the same time, I think that's what really drove me to want to bring you on here, because when you've experienced so much darkness, like there's for the extreme personality, there's an extreme amount of light that
Yeah.
comes from that, because you have the ability to go so deep on one direction and come all the way back. There's that fire and that passion when channeled in ways that are more serving to you, like you can rise up in different ways. And so when I stumbled across your like 3-minute video that just like blew my mind, you were talking about falling off the bandwagon with regards to sobriety. And for me, I've been years sober, and you know, the one thing that's really kept me sober is everybody else, and that like ego of like clean time. And so I really want to start there about how was that journey for you? Like how long were you sober for at that point, and what was that like for you to like fall off and then get back, like that whole fucking journey?
I guess like to kick it all off, it's the journey of what got me to falling off the wagon, right? As you said before, with someone that's experienced so much darkness, all or nothing mindset, right? You've experienced so much darkness, all you want to do is radiate light out to the world and fucking help everyone, right? And so my journey into fitness and becoming a PT was because I wanted to help people become better versions of themselves. So I went from complete darkness to becoming a PT, wanting to help everyone. Then I found a sport that I loved, which was CrossFit. So I was trying to train as an athlete. Then I set up a charity, which was Wad Out, and I was trying to help people through that. So I was helping run a gym. I was training as an athlete. I was helping people as a PT. I was running a non-for-profit organization, and I took no care for myself and my own mental well-being. There was no time for Dan to just switch off. you know, and
Yeah.
as much as I'm an introverted extrovert, right? So when I need to be, I can put it on and I can do the show and make a good environment for anyone to be in. But when I need to recharge, I need to be able to shut the door and have time for myself and listen to music, read a book, no distractions. And I wasn't allowing myself that time. And I landed up just soothing as I was before through alcohol. And it started with a couple of drinks. And I was like, oh, I've got this under control. You know, the addict mindset, the story you tell yourself. Oh, I'll go for a few beers. Then before you know it, I was out with the lads, writing myself off completely and getting up to stupid shit. And then before you know it, I'm, you know, nose 2 bags deep and I'm out for 3 days and completely fucking making decisions that are going to screw up the rest of my life. And that for me was, I've been sober for a number of years. In February, when that happened, I tried to take my own life because I felt like a failure. I felt ashamed. I didn't see the point in continuing anymore. I felt like I'd let myself down. I felt I'd let people around me down, my family, my husband, and I just felt like life had become this uphill battle that I just wasn't willing to play ball in anymore. You know, my life has been this continuous fucking ball of shit, pushing uphill, pushing uphill, pushing uphill. And as much as I tried to step into the light, I landed up back in the darkness and I gave up. And through some power, not to my own, I don't want to say God because that freaks people out and I don't believe in God myself, but there's definitely a higher power. It kept me alive. And that whole experience in February really rocked me to the core of like, I was actually willing to just completely fucking check out. Like, I remember having a full conversation with myself at the sink before swallowing 45 Valiums. Are you sure this is what you want? Yeah. Yes, this is what I want. I'm ready to go. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I checked out. And something kept me alive. And that rocked me to the core. It took me a good 6 months to work through that. I went back into the 12-step program, got a sponsor, started working through the steps. I get goosebumps talking about it. You know, I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate enough to stumble across another amazing human being on Instagram that pointed me in the right direction with someone that was connected into the program in Sydney. I had a sponsor very early on. Remember, all this happened during COVID, right? There was no open meetings, there was nothing. So it was, in one sense, it was really good because I could hide behind this, right? So my ego was like, I can do this because it's not real. And so I could connect from the outside without having to fully commit. And I met an amazing human being called RJ who became my sponsor. And he worked me through the steps. And I was like, all of this happened during COVID, right? So it was, to be honest, COVID, what had happened in February was just before COVID hit. And COVID couldn't have happened at a better time for me. And that sounds really selfish, but it forced me to take the time out that I needed to. I didn't work for 3 months. I worked with my sponsor diligently on the steps that I needed to do. And I'm just really grateful and fortunate that I had the help and assistance that I needed from my sponsor. And he really paved the way to me starting to work on getting both mentally and physically well again. And I'll be forever grateful for that. And then, this year came along and I decided that I was going to get back into fitness and start helping people again. But last year taught me a lot and it offered me a great opportunity of growth in terms of it's okay to help others, but we need to be able to look after ourselves as well. And I think what I was doing before was I was taking on so much and trying to help so many people because I was trying not to look into myself and work on the shit that I needed to work on. And so it was just easier to help others, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And it's interesting, regardless of what kind of like healing or transformational work you're doing with people. I'd say like at the beginning of any kind of journey of that, when you really start sharing like there's a falling off the bandwagon and a complete implosion because you realize like you care so much, and then you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, but and then like shit goes south.
Yeah.
Get so humbled. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's good. Now I'm just trying to keep those boundaries in place to make sure that I don't burn myself out and that I can have a bigger impact and do the things that I actually enjoy instead of doing the things that I feel like I have to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about boundaries because they're super important. And I find with really deep feeling people, energetic boundaries are really like that not there.
No.
Something that comes naturally. And so whether whoever's listening later is either struggling with addiction, recovering from addiction, or you know that blessed human being that's on the middle ground. But I think that every style of personality of human who is driven to serve and to help others has experienced this burnout based on like too much, trying to go too fast, trying to do everything all at once. And so I really want to hone in on the boundaries here and just ask you to go deeper into that. So like, what boundaries didn't you have? What happened, and how are you
I was the yes man.
Okay,
I was the yes man. I said yes to everything. You need something? Cool. You need something? Cool. Okay, yeah. You want this? Cool. Yes. Okay, cool. You want me to work more? I'll work more. I just said yes to everything because I was a people pleaser, you know, and I couldn't say no. And saying no for me, I think stems from, I was told no for all of the wrong reasons growing up, right? And I feel like that for me, if me saying no subconsciously was a negative, like I wasn't being helpful, I wasn't helping others. And so I just said yes to everything, and beginning to learn to understand that it's okay to say no was the biggest point for me, you know. And if I can, and if I've got the capacity to help people, then I'll help people. But if it's going to affect my own mental well-being and my own physical health, then I have to put the boundaries in place and just say, look, right now, I'm not in the space to be able to help you. Here's someone that can, do you know what I mean? Or here's a number to call, or here's a meeting to go to that's open, that's face-to-face. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of other places and people that do offer help. And sometimes just shedding light on that is help enough.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I think also being able to speak openly on platforms like this, as you said, speak your truth, that helps people without draining too much energy, you know, and it helps people then reach out because they see that it is normal what they're going through, the thoughts that they're having, the downtime that they're having. It's all normal. We're all human beings. And I was reading something about social media actually today, and it's something that's long said, and you know, I don't want to repeat what people have said, but it's a snapshot into people's lives. That's the 1% of how fucking amazing am I, you know, and it distorts people's reality on what is actually real. And it takes people like myself, like you, like Jake, like others out there that are being authentic to themselves and sharing their stories and being real and being true and showing how they live and what's going on in their day-to-day life to bring some sort of normality back to the human race. Because right now, in the direction it's going, no wonder so many people are fucked up.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like the older I get, the more I realize like the show that people put on, and it's been happening forever and ever and ever. Like, you know, it's funny actually. You're from the UK, so I've been recently watching The Crown on Netflix, and just the drama, and
the drama,
and
it's
bless
unbelievable.
them, but just like have a pinpoint of like, holy fuck, I'm glad I'm anonymous. You know?
Yeah. It's crazy. My other half froths off of that, loves the Queen, the royal family. He just won't stop. He watches it every time the new season comes out. Loves it. I lived and breathed it for many years, so lost interest a long time ago.
Yeah, totally. But it's just it's a perfect case in point to different timelines and society norms where there's been just a whole bunch of like showing face, showing face, showing face just for the sake of showing face. Like
And it's
there's not,
exhausting.
yeah, it's exhausting. People are miserable. Like the
Yeah.
more thriving people are people that are like in their full expression and like finding, and because they're expressing more fully, then attracting a crew of people that really like support who they are, and then they can
Yeah.
just like ride that and forget about all the people that don't support. So
Yeah.
um on that note, I want to, just for relatability's sake, I want you to dive into some of your background and a little bit of your story. um, what do you think it's important for people to know about you, about where you came from?
I think, and this is the this, the current dilemma I'm having at the moment is like, how much do I share with people to make it relatable? How much is
Yeah,
too much? But I think it's really important that for me, telling my story and telling my truth, because it can only inspire other people. I tell people face to face my story, and they're like,
yeah,
no fucking way, that could never have happened. And I'm like, legit, this is the truth. Yeah, but
yeah,
you don't seem like the type of person that's had that background. And I'm like, well, that's the exterior, you know, and that's the work that's been put in to change it. So a little bit about my background. I'm an identical twin brother. I was born in South London, Southeast London, to a mother that had lived her own trauma and her own demons for so long that she just wasn't fit to be a mother. You know, this woman would lock me and my twin in a dark room for days on end and just leave us there. And my dad at the time, as far as I'm aware, was a lorry driver, so he'd be away. And his sister, my auntie, God bless her, would come round and change our nappies and feed us and look after us. And so we was taken off of her at a very young age, and we went to live with my dad. But we was in between my grandparents and my dad. My dad was very young. He was 17 when he had us. I don't think he was fit to be a father. Well, he definitely wasn't. He was abusive, both physically, verbally, growing up as a kid. And, you know, I landed up leaving my father and living with my grandparents, where it wasn't much better. You know, I've made peace with my grandparents, and, you know, they've said their piece, I've said mine, they've apologized. They'd had their kids before, and then all of a sudden they're dumped with these two kids that seem like rat bags, but really they've just been through so much fucking trauma that they were violent and angry with the world at such a young age, and they just didn't know how to deal with it. And so we landed up going into the system. And they kept us together for a bit, but I mean, by that time we'd seen and been through so much. We were so protective over each other. We were just violent towards people that tried to come and get into our space, you know. And so they decided to split us up at a young age, and they shipped my brother up halfway across the UK and kept me down in South London. And we were moved from pillar to post, you know. So drugs and alcohol were very easy to get into. Gangs became our families. Crime became our way of making a living and getting by. And we were thieving little bastards that used drugs and drank alcohol, you know, and it was just a way of life. And we've been put into these care homes where these people were trusted to look after you and care for you, yet the physical and sexual abuse that went on in there was rife, you know. And when you're that age and you're growing up in that environment, you don't have the emotional intellect to understand that this isn't your fault, you know. And that's the biggest thing that was so hard for me growing up and having to go through that, was that at that age, I didn't understand that I hadn't done anything wrong. The self-reflection I had at that age was, you must be a bad person. You've done something to deserve this. This is your fault. You're not good enough. You don't deserve to be loved. You'll never be anything. And I carried that all through my life. And that's the baggage that led me to soothing the anxiety and the mental health that I struggled with for so long, you know. And when you tell yourself that story over and over and over and over again for long enough, it becomes your way of being. You know, I went from relationship to relationship. Whenever I felt like a relationship was getting good, I'd destroy it, because subconsciously, if I destroy it, it's my problem. I don't want anything else taken away from me anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I got involved in gangs. I looked over my shoulder for a number of years because of it. I've done stuff that I was ashamed of, that I've healed through and I've moved on from. But I've done some stupid shit. And it took me moving to Australia 5 years ago, 6 nearly now, to be able to forgive myself, forgive those that had hurt me, and to make the decision that now I'm going to live authentically to who I am and be who I want to be. I grew up in a place that was racist, homophobic. It was a shithole. You know, the people that, for the most part, there's some good people there as well, but for the most part, a lack of education, single-minded. If it's not white, it's not right. That kind of attitude. If you're gay, you're proof, you're whatever, disease-ridden. It was just not a conducive environment to be in. Mm-hmm. And so I built this exterior of tattoos, shaved heads, went to the gym, hung out in a gang, because that was my way of protecting myself. Mm-hmm. But it was never really who I was. I never really had the opportunity to express myself freely. And the funny thing is, when I moved to Australia, a couple of my good friends that I still have from the UK are like, "You've become a bit gayer since you've moved to Australia." And I'm like, "What do you mean gayer? I'm not gayer, I'm just me now. I can be my authentic self and I can express myself freely." They're like, yeah, no, we're not saying it's a bad thing. You're just gayer, but you're more happy.
Yeah.
So,
which is the literal translation term anyway.
Yeah, God, like, bless them. It was an endearing thing to say. It was just the words that they chose to use. But like, I still to this day struggle with my sexuality.
Yeah.
You know, because of the abuse I went through as a child.
So do you want to dive into a little bit of that? Or do you want to, because I think for anybody who's listening, and I know Australia, like I went there 3.5 years ago on my way to Bali, and they were just passing this law and like voting on whether or not gay people could actually get married. Like, dude, you're just doing that. Like, you've been able to do that in Canada since like 2003 or something.
I know, it's so retarded.
It was so crazy because like Australia's so ahead in so many other ways, but this part of it, I was like, whoa, like I can't believe that's still a thing. And so likely there's a lot of people listening, either quietly or loudly, that would probably benefit from a little bit of hearing about your struggle with that if you're keen to go into it.
Yeah, so I mean, I knew that I was different from a very young age. You know, I thought about boys instead of girls, but you know, I grew up in that environment. I had what they called the beard. I had a girlfriend, you know, that was hiding the fact that I was gay, and it was a problem because of the environment I'd been brought up in and what I believed being gay meant. So for me, because of the environment I grew up in, and because of back then, the only real gay people that you had on TV was the overtly camp and overtly gay guys, and there's nothing wrong with it, but for me that's all I understood as gay. So I thought, well, but I don't want to be like that. Does that mean that I'm gay? Does that mean I'm not? And it was just a really confusing time. And then when I moved away from the estate and I moved into more central London, I started meeting other gay people, and there was this whole cocktail of different gay people that had different lifestyles and different, it was mind-blowing, the different types of gays and the different types of labels that each and every single one had, you know. And that was really where I just started to kind of experiment a little bit with, you know, where do I sit within that? But during all of that time, I remember my first ever boyfriend, David Cooper, God rest his soul, was followed home from a nightclub in central London and kicked to death outside his apartment, just for being gay. And as calm and as collected as I can be, I still have this trigger in me that hit when someone has a pop for someone being gay. If someone says anything because someone's gay, I go from 0 to 100. And I guess moving to Australia, I decided that I was going to ask my husband to marry me. And along with that, I made the decision that I wasn't going to be ashamed of who I was anymore. I did my first Mardi Gras march, which was good. I signed up for Mr. Gay Australia.
Oh my God.
That was an experience.
No wonder your friends are like, you've become a little bit more gay since you got there. You're like, yeah. Mr. Gay Australia.
I got third place.
Go big or go home.
I got third place, which I'm proud of.
That's sick.
I think I failed all of the gay culture questions on the questionnaire part that we had to do. The gay culture and pop questions I failed miserably at. Anyway, I made that decision, but even still now, like, I'll be walking down the road with my husband and he'll want to hold my hand or whatever, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, because I still have this, you know, it was years and years and years of trauma and being in that environment. So there's still this nagging voice in the back of my head, like, don't let anyone see you're gay. Don't let anyone, do you know what I mean? Just in case. Because if someone says something, it's 0 to 100. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to move past that. I'm trying to heal that side of me. And that's the side of me that I'm still learning to accept wholeheartedly and move through. And it's working, you know. The last few months have been amazing, and my husband's told me he's noticed a real change in myself, in our relationship and everything, you know. So it's having a big impact personally for myself and my husband, and I'm sure for the people that are around me as well.
Yeah, beautiful. And I can't, like, I couldn't imagine, because especially when you told me the story of, like, your friend being beaten to death, I couldn't imagine what it would feel like beyond the rage and anger that gets triggered inside of you as a protection because of the trauma. Yeah. I couldn't imagine what it feels like to actually not be safe. Yeah. Just being normally in your truth with your partner. Yeah. Like that, like, I get goosebumps just, like, thinking about it, because, like, for me, it highlights a real fucking privilege I have, that I don't have to feel unsafe because I'm a heterosexual female. Yeah. No, and furthermore, I'm white, you know? Yeah. Like, it's just like, I couldn't even imagine. And, like, my heart goes out to you so much for just being really raw and real about that, because, you know, in 2021, it pains me that that's actually a thing, you know. And I live in Indonesia, where being gay is actually illegal. Yeah, and
that's
it's
crazy.
A Muslim culture.
Yeah,
it's a Muslim culture, you know. And so it's like, there's so many parts of the world, and as a woman traveling in these more classical cultures, I like to say, that are a little bit back in time when it comes to, like, being a woman. So being a white woman in places like this isn't, it's a privilege in a lot of ways, but it's definitely like holding a sign on your head as well. But I couldn't, like, in, you know, the most advanced societies, let's say, or most developed societies, I couldn't imagine just that being triggered on a day-to-day by something as beautiful as, like, expressing love towards your partner as you walk down the street. And so I think just want to, like,
Australia was one of the last places. I mean, there's still many places that haven't, but in the grand scheme of things, it's one of the last places that legalized gay marriage. And the way that Australia had done it, it should never have been a vote. It should have just been made legal, in my eyes. You know, what the fuck are you doing, putting it out for a vote? Like, it actually did more damage to the members of the LGBTQI community than it did any good, because it gave a pedestal for these people to jump on and preach hate. You know, and I remember a friend sending me pictures of these billboard posters in Melbourne of a picture of a child with two gay dads saying that children in same-sex relationships were more highly abused than people in regular relationships, which is fucking
like as if that has something to do with being gay, you know. It's like maybe that has something to do with the trauma of growing up, figuring out you're gay, and then living with the trauma.
So it created this. It was awful. Like it created this real bad energy within the communities, and yeah, like I said, it just gave a platform for people to preach hate. But there were some amazing things that came out of it as well. I mean, Wad Out as a charity was created on the back end of this yes vote, you know, and it was the first event that we had was done off the back of that, and it was a complete sellout, and we had so many people turn up for it because they just wanted us.
It's like getting to the point now where I don't even need to introduce anything anymore because we've been through this so many fucking times. So just waiting for Dan to come back on. There we go. All right, let's continue. What are you drinking? Coffee?
Green tea.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I just moved into a new house and I'm starting to realize it's me. It's me because because I'm only on data because I haven't even like set up any like Wi-Fi or anything yet, and it's raining so hard today, and so like whenever it does that, the service sucks. So anyway, whatever it is.
All good.
So we just finished off. You just got into the charity, and is it your charity, WAD?
Yeah, Wad Out.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Tell me what that is, because you were just talking about like in the midst of all of that kind of hate speech and also the win of the yes vote and all that, you had a really cool event and created this space where people felt safe to come be themselves in their sexuality, which is amazing.
Yeah. So we after my partner and I had moved to Sydney, we found it really hard to connect with like-minded people. We're not into the club scene, we don't do drugs, we don't party, and so it was just really hard to meet other like-minded people of the queer community. And we both loved CrossFit, and we was away on holiday in Bali, in fact, actually, where we came up and was like, well, why don't we run an event, a quarterly event, where we can get people together that are like-minded, that love fitness, do a throwdown and raise money for charities that directly impact our communities, and we can donate the money. And that's what we did. And we came back, we set up an event with alongside a charity called Beyond Blue, which is a mental health charity. And a good friend of mine, Khan Porter, he's a CrossFit athlete, I was working with him at the time, and he posted it on his social media. We didn't sell tickets to the first event. Don't ask me why we didn't. We was just like, pay on the door when you arrive, whatever, no dramas. And I remember the night before the event, I had not a wink of sleep because I was so anxious that no one was going to turn up to the event. And the next day, it was like 5-10 minutes before the event was meant to start, and there was no one. It was like tumbleweed going through the gym, and I was like, this has fallen flat on its face. And then literally, we've got sponsors in, we've gone the full 9 yards with it. And then literally 5 minutes later, we had 100 and something people descend onto the gym for this event. And they had travelled from Western Australia, South Australia. They'd come from all over to be at this event. And that was when we really knew that we'd created something special. I get goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah, I get goosebumps too.
At that point, I'd never done public speaking. I'd never really spoken out to anyone, and I was meant to do a speech before the event. And I remember walking out, and I was just like, and I just handed the mic to my friend Khan, and he did an intro and got everyone rounded up because, you know, being an influencer, he's used to doing all of that kind of stuff. And the event went off, and I just remember walking around while everyone was throwing down and just being like in a world of like, oh my God, it was an unbelievable experience. And, you know, afterwards everyone gets together and talks, and everyone was just sharing and being honest and being open. And we had all different types of people. We even had heterosexual people that wanted to just come and support, you know, and we had like a 78-year-old grandma from South Australia that had brought her nephew all the way up
Aww.
just to support, you know. And
That's
her name's
amazing.
Nana Mouse, we called her, and she,
Aw.
little woman, but she went into the workouts full hog and gave it her best. And then we all sat around and ate donuts and chatted afterwards, and it was just a really good event. And we did that for a number of years. We did just events where we raised money for other charities, and then the community were asking, where's the money going? Like, what are these charities doing with the money? Couldn't give them answers. And I reached out to some of the charities and was like, where does this money go? Like, what does it actually do? We want to tell our community what it does. And unfortunately, they didn't get back to us. And so not Beyond Blue was really very responsive, but there was other charities that we worked with, and they didn't respond to us. And I think that's when we made the decision, okay, we need to do something ourselves here, so we can see the funds and we can say exactly where this money is going. Yeah. And it was after going through the whole process of setting up a charity, getting the board of directors together, it was a lot of work. The paperwork. And this was all coming together just before everything happened in February for me last year. And we did our first event as a charity at Mardi Gras, and we had huge plans for the charity, you know. And then I fell off the wagon. COVID came. Programs to help the youth in our communities, and it all come to a crashing end, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we were talking about the charity that you were running in the event, and how everything you had run this event, it turned out to be a success, even though apparently everybody met up on the highway just to screw you over a little bit at the beginning and give you all that anxiety. It was like, hey guys, let's just meet up 10 minutes before the show and make him sweat. And so, and then you were talking about how the difficulties of actually starting a charity and all of that. And I've looked into that in the past for friends. And so I understand how time consuming and paperwork and legal stuff and everything that can be. And then ultimately that burnout led to February, when you fell off the wagon and fell off the sobriety wagon, tried to take your life and all of that. So I guess just continue with whatever's flowing through.
Yeah, we did our first, that was our first event as an official charity, that we were going to raise money, and the idea behind it was to then take that money and plug it into programs to help LGBT youth, but also Indigenous youth in Australia have access to a fitness and well-being program to hopefully educate, inspire and motivate these kids to take control of their lives. And I'm talking high-risk kids that have been booted out of home because they're gay, or Indigenous kids that wouldn't usually have access to this type of program because of lack of money, or whether it be lack of education around health and nutrition and fitness and all of that kind of thing. So that was the big plan, and unfortunately I'd bitten off too much. I'd taken on too much and I burnt myself out. And that didn't come to fruition, one, because of that, but also COVID hit. And during COVID, our board of directors was broken apart. Some people had to go back to Queensland, some people moved away. It just meant that we couldn't operate legally as a charity because we didn't have our board of directors in one place. So everything just kind of got put on hold. And then we made the decision, my husband and I and the board of directors made a decision, given the uncertainty of the world right now and the direction that everything's going in, albeit we've been fucking so lucky in Australia when it comes to COVID. We just don't know what next week's going to be, the week after, next month. So we decided that we was no longer going to be a charity because it just wasn't plausible for us to put in that work right now with all the uncertainty. So we've gone back to our grassroots, and we're a charity that raises money for other charities that directly impact our community. And I've taken a little bit of a back step from it this year, after everything that happened this year. and kind of feeling like I'm in a good place, I've made the commitment to myself this year to really work on my spiritual wellness and my physical wellness. I've had a few health problems this year that need addressing, and obviously I was spiritually sick for quite some time, so I've been working on that, and that's my main focus. And I strongly believe that if I can get well in myself, then I can have a bigger impact in people's lives. And so my husband is now running the event side of things with the charity, and we're doing our next event for Mardi Gras, actually, which he's working on and getting a location and sorting all that stuff out. But it's in capable hands, and I trust him wholeheartedly. He knows what I would do and what I wouldn't do, but he's also got his own flair that he wants to bring to the table as well, which is amazing for the community to have something different to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where What Out is at the moment.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah. And I just want to applaud you too for like being able to like actively be like, yeah, actually I'm more important right now, like in the sense of like, you know, you are the most important thing in your life because your body is like the only reason you can be here, you know.
Exactly.
And so I love that you've really prioritized that. And then within that, I mean, given and trusted your partner to, you know, have the opportunity to, one, manage it, and two, empowering him so that he can add his piece in as well, and also be part of the like co-creation. And for you, I mean, your vision and your soul and all the intangibles of like who you are and what you bring to the table is still like very much an essence of the thing. And it's nice to have somebody work on some of the tangible stuff to like actually get shit done, because, you know, perhaps you're more of like, if you're anything like me, more airy and like I have a
I'm the
VA.
ideas man.
Yeah,
hey,
and
listen,
same.
Mark has always been a part of What Out, and he's always been the person that's kept me on track. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since day dot. And I'll say it to everyone, I'm an ideas man. I have a trillion different ideas in a day of what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. And Mark is definitely he's head of GSD, getting shit done. So
yeah.
you tell him
super
to
grounded and yeah. good.
And he gets it done. So I mean, it's definitely in capable hands, and I'm really excited to see where he's going to take it and the direction that he wants to go in it. And it's really like, it will always have a place in my heart, but right now it's not where I need to be, and I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever step back in that space, or if it's something that I did and maybe it was the thing that needed to burn me out for me to have the self-realization and awareness of the things that I wasn't doing for myself. And maybe it's time for me to move on from that and Mark to take the reins on that, and who knows what the next chapter is for me.
Yeah, that's really awesome that you're able just to kind of step back and observe and see how you can approach the table in a more like, in a way where like, you know, you can't help other people. They always say you can't help people from an empty cup or whatever. And I think that kind of brings us full circle into like what you had expressed to me behind the scenes. What you originally wanted to talk about was trauma, and really how you've used trauma to fuel your motivation and to use your passion to fuel you into the life that you're creating for yourself, and how to you know, not try to like shove away the trauma, but actually bring it to light and use it as like fuel to build, like, it's like that, it's not bad, you know, it's actually like an element of who you are. And so I want you to go into that kind of topic for people that do have a lifetime of baggage that's really heavy. And I remember I was taking one of those self-development courses when like in my early 20s, and there's this older lady, and she was like on stage like dragging, she's like she was so funny, and she was like, yeah, you just, and it gets so heavy, and then you put that in your suitcase, and you put that in your suitcase, and then suddenly you're just dragging this thing behind you. And she's on stage like just dragging it, and it's so true, because it's like, and you keep your suitcase heavy because you earned it, this pain, and it's yours, 100%. And you're gonna keep it. And I think I find it really interesting because, as somebody who has a lifetime of baggage that used to weigh me down and sometimes weighs me down, I don't really spend a lot of time identifying with my past or even really bringing it into the present, because although it has shaped who I am and helped build who I am, it's not who I am now. Who I am now is like, literally who I am now. And, so I'd love for
It's
you
funny. It's funny you said. I had a conversation. One of my morning rituals is to get up and go and connect with nature and do some form of heavy breathing, whether it be swimming, running, or a combination of the both. And I went with a friend today, Justin, who is very like-minded to me, and we can have these kind of deep conversations. And we was talking about my past and my twin brother in the UK. And it's funny you mentioned about how I have this detachment now of my previous life. And so much so that when I speak to certain people from London, it's almost like my past was someone else's life. It's really weird. It's like I've managed to create a boundary within myself that no longer brings that shit into my current life. But that stuff takes work, man.
Oh my God.
And it still happens. There's still days where I have F reactions, like fuck you, like fuck the world, fuck everyone. I'm going to put my head in the sand and fuck it all off, but those windows of those periods are getting shorter and shorter. And that awareness of like, hang on, Dan, you're having a FU reaction. Like, just take a deep breath, go for a walk, and assess this to what it actually is and step into reality. Because we become conditioned when you've been through a life of trauma and when you've been through a life of upset, you become conditioned to the stories that are in your head. And those stories are the things that you play out into your reality. They become your reality. Oh, well, this person's done this, well, fuck it. Like, I'm going to fuck it all off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of understanding, well, actually, the only thing that is part of you now that has always been part of you is your choice. Yeah. Right? And you have a choice on what you're going to do with your past. And the one thing I'll say to anyone that has a story or that has a trauma is you got to stop living it in that and use that as a means to help others. The best way to heal trauma from your past is to use it to be able to serve others, to help them move through it. And it's kind of healing for yourself too.
Yeah.
It's not the only answer, and there's a lot more work that needs to go into it. And anyone that's still fresh in their trauma shouldn't be trying to help anyone until they've fixed their own or begun their own process in fixing that. But yeah, like, and don't get caught up in the ifs, buts, and maybes of what people are going to think about you when you share your truth. Right, this is a big thing for me. And so for years, I've wanted to talk about my truth on social media, and I'd post something and I'd delete it because I'd be like, oh, what are people going to say about it? Or I'd post a video and I'd be like, oh no, that didn't really come out right. And I'd be so caught up in the what ifs and maybes of what people would think. And now this year, I've made a real conscious effort to be like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it once and I'm going to post it.
You're a one-take wonder.
Take wonder.
I do the same thing.
If I fuck up, I fuck. But sometimes I still catch myself. And like the other day, I was filming something. I can't remember what it was. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could make it better. And I did it like 3 or 4 more times. And I landed up posting the original one anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, I get caught in this window of comparison of what other people are doing. And so I'm really selective about the people that I follow on social media. I don't follow many people because I get caught in this comparison trap of like, oh, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. And maybe I can do this and my feed should look like this. And I think being authentic and raw to what your story is and telling it on your terms in a way that's constructive and positive is the biggest way that anyone can have that's lived through trauma and to have an impact in people's lives.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love that. It's kind of interesting, like how the mentality that you've adopted into like confidently stepping forward is like this
kind of like, don't look back, you know? And it's funny because like, yeah, you can look back and deal with it and be okay with it, and you'll use the same one anyway. And same with like the trauma in your life. Like you can look there and it's okay, but it's not serving you to continue going back into something that's already happened to then try to like change it, you know, because it's already happened. And so I love the parallel between something so simple as like speaking into the camera for social media, as well as like your life and how you live it. And so I guess like now, because you're really approaching things more slowly for yourself and more in tune with your own well-being, what keeps you true to yourself and also committed to the effort that it takes to actually
it's an effort. It's an effort.
Because like, remember all those times where you're like, fuck, I wish I was just like them. It seems so easy. Like all this bullshit you tell yourself, like, no, let's just say it like it is. Like it's
and listen, there's days,
a full-time job.
I'm a human being, right? And we're all human beings. And there's days where I'm like, fuck it. I just want to open a bottle of beer and swig a beer and go out and write myself off. And there's days where I'm like, fuck the world. Everyone's got it easier than me. Poor me, poor me. There's days where I have that mindset, but it's about it, and it's okay to have those days, right?
Totally.
That's the biggest thing to take away from that, is it's okay to have those days, and it's okay to have those thoughts, but what it's not okay to do is dramatize them and become them, right? So we're all capable of thinking different things and having different ideas around our life, and it's the practice is about having self-awareness about what's going to serve you and what's not. And that's the tricky part, and that's the part that takes the work. And I guess the thing that inspires me to keep doing the work is to constantly do the work, right? So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I keep doing the work, my life's only going to get better. If I stop doing the work, then I'll end up going back to drinking, drugs, and hating the world.
Yeah.
You know, and having some form of morning routine. So I preach a morning routine to people, and that's the one thing I took away from AA and the 12 steps. Is, you know, I don't attend meetings regularly. I'll do one here and there when I need to, but I'm not really embedded into that culture anymore. And you know, and that's only been a year, and people have their different points of views and say, oh, you should be in it and you should be doing this, you're fresh in your sobriety. I just didn't find that it was serving me in the right way. But the one thing I took away from that was structure.
Yeah.
Right. Having structure in your day, but also simplifying your life so there's no confusion. Right. So, and I've gone full hog. You open my wardrobe, I have 6 t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, the same pants and socks. I don't have to decide what I'm wearing every day. I've got limited options. So it frees my mind to do other stuff. My morning routine is going to consist of either getting up and doing breath work, getting up and meditating, getting up and journaling, or getting up and getting out and getting connected to nature. You know, and sometimes it's all 4 things. Sometimes it's 1 thing.
Oh, I love that you have a flexible routine.
Oh, I tried the hard line, and it just became more stressful.
Well, it's just that it's feeding the extreme personality that needs to chill the fuck out, you know? Like you're allowing yourself to be a ever-evolving, flexible, ever energetically flowing human being, you know? Like you're not a machine and a robot. Like it's fucking boring to do the same thing every morning, every day. Like sometimes.
But not only that, shit happens. Shit happens in life that's going to stop you from being able to do it. And if you're so rigid and stuck in your way, that then becomes toxic, because you're like, oh, I've not done my journaling, I've not done my meditation, and it just destroys your whole day.
Yeah.
So I have the 4 things that I got to do in my day, you know, and that is taking time for reflection and giving gratitude, doing something that's going to teach me, whether it's listen to a podcast, read a book, whatever it is, meditate, and exercise. Those are my 4 things. And I get them done every day. Sometimes I get them all done in the morning. Sometimes I get them done throughout the day. But as long as I tick those 4 boxes at some point before I go to bed that evening, I know that I've done all of that I can to become a better version of myself and to hopefully be able to serve others in a better way.
I love that. And also just like maintain the you that you are that day too, you know, like because there's so much pressure I mean, because we have so much access to information and everybody else's final cuts of their lives on the internet, it's like we have so much like comparison going on. And it's really nice to also highlight that, like, in order to like maintain your car, like you have to like keep the oil topped up and like keep the gas topped up before it runs out, and like wash it every once in a while. And so like these four things are like kind of keeping you like maintenance, right? Because you don't have to like save the world every single day, you know. And it's just this general maintenance. And just like with you know, with substance abuse, like you let it slip just that tiny little bit, you know, and then eventually you've got, you know, oh, I'm going to take one day off, and then oh, I'm just going to take 2 days off. And then for me, after I take 2 days off, it's really hard to get back on. And it's like I struggle to get back on for sometimes months, you know. And I'm going through one of those processes right now where I'm like, okay, come on, get back into it. And it's getting there. But like I was so good for like 3 months, and then Christmas happened, and it was like, oh. So
it's hard, like as long as you're consistent in the things, like obviously you have a brand, and you have an amazing brand on and an amazing presence on social media, and that takes work. But you know, it's okay to take time off for that, as long as you're still taking time to do the stuff to work on yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And I think I used to get caught up in like having to post every day and having to put out a thing, and it's just like, when do I post? Do I post in the evening because it gets more interaction? Do I post it? It's just, it's another stress. And I've taken the same approach to my social media, and I don't have a big following, whatever. I don't really care about the following. It's more about, am I having the right impact in people's lives? And if I think something, I'll post it straight away, because otherwise it doesn't get done, or it gets diluted throughout the day. Things happen and it's not so powerful. So I'm not concerned about what time I'm posting. I'm not concerned about how many times a week or day or month I'm posting. It's about putting out good, valuable content, which is going to impact people's lives. And since taking that approach, every single time I post, someone sends a message, slides in my DM. Thank you. It's what I needed to hear today, or blah, blah. That for me is more valuable than any sponsor, any paid whatever. Like, that is having a real impact in people's lives. And I think more so now than ever, we should be taking that approach with social media, for sure.
And it's also, it's a really, what you're explaining there is the creative process in and of itself, you know, like for the artist who wants to create something, and this is what you're creating. It's just that what you're creating isn't necessarily like tangible, you know. It's part of your airy idea, vision, nature, where it's very intangible, but it's a feeling. And the reason that people do art isn't for it to look good, it's to make you feel something. And for you, it's like, as an artist, if you get an inspiration for art and you don't let yourself get into that creative hole right away, it's never going to be the same again. And so I love that you're really following your intuition and like getting on it right away, throwing it out there, see what sticks, you know. And even if it doesn't stick, you're going to continue creating and creating and creating. And I mean, that's the definition of what Passion Pilgrim is. A Passion Pilgrim is an individual with an unshakable commitment to create, connect, and explore. And you're exactly doing that. So I absolutely love that. And I love just the way that you're so committed to showing up. And I mean, you weren't even like, the way that you came into the world as an infant, you know, and what you were taught on an energetic level from the moment you entered this earth to then be standing where you are today is like, I have like goosebumps just like reflecting on it, because it's so incredible. And it's people like you who were able to live to tell the tale, that are really here to inspire people on a really deep level. But not only that, to really allow your soul to evolve. And like, you're a living proof of like a soul evolution in real time, you know. You're like really like moving from this thickness into this like beautiful light. And it's just beautiful to see you really like listen deeply to like what's going on, and then to be able to talk about it. I mean, the way that you talk is, I'm still like working with my own demons and like sharing myself and all those things. But it's really nice to, what really inspires me the most out of everything that I do are these conversations with people like you where I don't get paid and we just get to shoot the shit and talk like friends and like, and then people listen to it later, you know?
Yeah. And do you know what?
So
if it helps one person in the world, that's a job well done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if it saves one person from picking up a drink, if it stops one person from taking their own life, if it inspires someone to do something that they didn't think was possible because of their past demons, that's a job, just one person. That's all it takes to be a job well done, is inspiration for one person, motivation for one person. And that's all we can hope for.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's interesting in your journey that, like, I guess sometimes that person is you, you know, like for you to be expressing yourself. And if you're the only one who cares about it, I mean, that's still a job well done.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'll
and
take
if no one else likes it, fuck them.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I want to start wrapping it up, but I had like a whole bunch of questions that I wrote down because like you're really inspiring me a lot. And I think, what are the common myths of trauma that you want to debunk?
The common myths of trauma.
Yeah. Whatever's kind of first coming into your mind.
What do you mean by myths? Like
myths? So like what are the when it comes to trauma, what are some fundamental beliefs that just aren't true? You know, when
I think trauma, the biggest fundamental beliefs that aren't true that come from trauma are limiting beliefs that we have of ourselves. The limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves because of our past traumas. You know, you don't deserve to be loved. You're not good enough. You'll never be anything. These are the biggest myths and the biggest things that need to be cracked for anyone that's faced any trauma. You are an individual on this earth to live your life. And it's not about getting wrapped up in the bullshit of your past and the trauma that you've been through. It's about being able to, like I said before, take that and use that and be able to use that to shine a light onto darkness. There's a reason that this has happened to you, as shitty as that sounds. There is a reason that the people that go through trauma. And that is because you are believed to possess the power to be able to take that trauma, go through it, survive it, and then shine fucking light on everyone else's trauma that's been through something similar. That's my belief from it. Like wholeheartedly, that's what I believe. We're chosen to go through the trauma to be able to then shine the light out onto other people.
I love that. It reminds me of this thing I tell my brother all the time. And it's a quote that I heard, and it's, you were given this life because you were strong enough to live it.
100%.
Again, yeah, it's super good. And so the thing that was coming up as you were talking, because those beliefs are like, they're really ingrained in us, like the I'm not good enoughs. And like, you know, we so pretty much all of us have that belief somewhere at some point and have experienced it at some time. But what was really coming through is I want you to speak to the timeline of healing, because I think it's really common for people to be incredibly impatient and goal-oriented with this healing process that's completely intangible. And so can you give some examples maybe about the time it took to heal some certain things? Because like there's decades involved.
I'm 34. I'm 34 years old.
Yeah.
And I've still got shit to clear through. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm 34 years old and there's still stuff from when I was a child that bring up these limiting beliefs. And I think the biggest thing to acknowledge here is that these traumas and these limiting beliefs, they're never going to go away. They're ingrained in you on a cellular level, right? They are part of your DNA. But what we get better at doing through the process of healing is having an awareness of what is a story that has been made up and what is reality, you know, and being trapped in your trauma, being trapped in your limiting beliefs. This, at my age now, at 34, when I get trapped in my limiting beliefs, I get trapped in my trauma and I have those FU reactions. Those are all stories that my mind is making up to keep me in my comfort zone, because my comfort zone is trauma. My comfort zone is limiting beliefs. And what I have now is this ability to be aware of what is fake and what is reality. And I don't get it right all the time. There's no end post. There's no end goal. It's a constant evolution of growing and learning and being more aware and more aware and more aware. It's never changing. So for anyone that thinks if I do this, I'm going to be better, or if I get to this, it's not, because you'll get to there, but you'll still have shit to grow through. You'll still have distance to travel. And I think the only way that you can really find peace through that is by acknowledging that it's never ending. It's a full circle. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that, because I think the term healed is a bit of an oxymoron. Like, you're never going to be healed, you know?
No.
Never. No. And I really like that you speak to, just the continuous cycle of these things coming up again, and the reality that, you know, that childhood trauma is a part of you, and it's going to come with you, and the level of self-acceptance just to be with that is huge for those who are still trying to push it away and wait for a day where it's not there anymore. You know, it really is the way to hold yourself that you need, you know, that compassion. So thank you.
No worries.
For those that are trapped in the trauma, you know, whether they're experiencing, you know, a level of PTSD, or they're in an acute trauma stage and something's just happened, or, you know, they're really in the story, what are some resources, practices, things that will help them shift it and also be with it in the way that it needs to be acknowledged? That have worked for you?
Me, the biggest thing that's worked for me to begin with was journaling.
Okay.
Writing shit down.
Okay.
Like, whether it be, and it doesn't have to be your biography, it doesn't have to be this elaborate story, whatever thoughts are flying around in your head, write it down. Write it down exactly how it appears in your mind. And then when you're in a better space, you can go back and reflect on what was going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, reflect on the thoughts that you were having. Columnize them, put them into what the story is, what reality is, you know, and just look at what those belief systems are that you have, and then look at how you can reflect on those to be like, okay, cool. I understand that this self-belief that I'm not worthy is bullshit. When you're in it and you're in that moment, it's really hard to acknowledge that. Do you know what I mean? And but it's also okay to, like I said before, have those thoughts, as long as we don't dramatize it and make it a reality. You know, and so I think for me, journaling, which has only been the past 6 months, has been a real opportunity for growth for me. And writing shit down. And then once you get used to the idea of journaling and identifying your thought patterns and what serves you and what doesn't serve you, then things like daily mantras, right? It sounds cheesy as fuck, but you go into my bathroom, I've got a chalk pen and a big mirrored
it's so good,
that stares at me, right? And I write shit on that, like, you are good enough, you are loved, you will be there, like, whatever works for you. Your daily mantras are key, man. The first thing is, I get up in the morning, I don't do anything, I go to the toilet. We'll go to the toilet first thing in the morning. We've been sleeping for the last 8 hours. We need to get rid of that stuff, right? Have a coffee first if you need to. And then I go to wash my hands and I look up and it's staring straight back at me. You know, and it actually puts a smile on my face. And then I don't look at my phone. I don't look at anything else. I go and read something positive, or listen to a podcast. Do you know what I mean? Like, these positive steps that you can take and implement into your life are going to help you move through your trauma. And it's also going to help you better understand how to be aware of what's going on and being able to move forward with it. it's a daily practice. There is no one size fits all, and it's what works for you.
Yeah.
But it takes time and consistency. Don't just think because you journal for one day that shit's going to be over, right? And I had the same mindset. I'm like, I've been journaling for a week. I still fucking hate the world.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And it just takes time and process. And, you know, sometimes I don't even write in my journal. I just fucking scribble. Whatever is there, it comes out in the form of journaling. And that for me is like key.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to like channel the energy, especially for somebody who's so visionary, to like take that and make it more concrete and also like get it out, you know, instead of it just like ping ponging around your head all the time. Yeah. It's just like, okay, let's let it out. Let's let it out. And then you have like a clear kind of stream of energy happening. So I could see
some advice I gave to a friend of mine that's just started the journaling process, and they start columnizing the stuff, right? So they put down what is limiting beliefs and what is reality. And one of the things I told him to do was to take a big fat red marker and just strike out the shit that is stories in your head, right? Because there's the same when you make a to-do list, right? And you tick that stuff off, the brain releases dopamine, right? And it says, wow, okay, I've achieved something. Whether it's fucking putting the bedding away, whatever the task is, you tick it off and it's like, oh, I've done something. It's a success for the day. Do you know what I mean? In the same way, the brain is hardwired that when you cross that thing out, it's a way of saying, I don't believe this anymore. Do you know what I mean? And you might have to do it a few hundred times before it settles into the brain. But that action of, no, I don't accept it, is a step in the right direction to healing what that limiting belief is.
Oh my God, it's so good, especially on those bullshit days where you're like literally so unproductive thinking about all of those limiting beliefs. You can actually just write a list and just check it off and feel really productive. Done.
Wicked. Yeah, 100%.
And you're like, oh, that was a good day.
I feel fresh. Get in the shower, put some music on, have a great day. Yeah, it's great. It honestly is.
Awesome.
But I mean, listen, I'm really grateful that I've had some very, very good, inspiring, motivating individuals that have come into my life. And I believe it's law of attraction. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And these people were meant to be part of my life. And they've helped me and given me the tools to be able to work through what I need to work through. And for anyone out there that is struggling, find those people, you know, find that person that you can talk to openly and honestly about the thoughts that are going on in your head without fear of judgment, you know, and just know that it's going to be safe between you and that person, and work through it. Communication is the biggest thing, right? Having someone to talk to that you trust wholeheartedly. And for anyone that's been through trauma, trust is a big no-no. Yeah. Trust is like, nah, fuck that. It's me against the world. I'm on my own with this. Yeah. But you got to find someone that you can trust. And I don't recommend it being a partner. Yeah. I recommend it being someone that is away from your intimate life. You know, they can be a best friend, they can be, but not a partner. I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah. I'm the same with that too. I think it's really nice to balance out the relationships and channel the energy. And often I find, like, I'm a big fan of therapy and kind of hiring people that are, or going to, whether they're hired or whether they're a free support group. It's actually nice if you don't know where to start, just to start like in a place that you don't know anybody, you know, like I walked into an NA meeting for the first time in my life a few months ago, you know, and it was like,
how fucking good are those meetings?
Oh, it was so good. I mean, it's the only one I've been to, but, you know, I was like 5.5 years clean and sober. I was like, hey guys, what's up?
Give it a go.
Yeah. I was like, my boyfriend just moved out. I don't know what to do. And, you know, and now it's all good, but yeah, it's, you know, for anybody who's like, fuck, I don't have anybody in my life. Like, I don't know where to start. And that kind of desperate loneliness that's very common when you're in the thick of any sort of traumatic experience or trauma story or darkness or whatever, you know, just reach out to somebody who's ready to listen, whether it's somebody on the internet that, you know, is going to be open for you, and or a support group, or me, or you, or, you know,
my DMs are always open for anyone that's struggling.
Yeah, same. And so I think just keep reaching out until something sticks, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, you make a connection that can then help you to just, you know, one step at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. And just know that there's always a way out of the tunnel, and to just one little baby toe in front of the other.
It's one little tick a day,
Yeah.
a day. That's all you need to do. You know,
Yeah.
it's one step at a time, and it will happen. But it takes a lot of fucking hard work. It takes a lot of hard work. It's easy to sit in your trauma. It's easy to sit in your past because, like I said before, it's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But until you can start to break out of that, that's when you start to grow. That's when the ceiling is lifted and you can elevate your soul, you can elevate your mind, and you can just keep growing.
Beautiful. Cool. Well, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you had to share today, for all the stories and like personal.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for the amazing intro. I hope I filled the boots good enough.
Oh my God, you made the boots, buddy. And yeah, just thanks for all the patience with the technical difficulties.
All good.
And just understanding with that. And I feel like I could talk to you for hours. And yeah, I hope that one day we can hang out in real time. I've got a few friends in Sydney. I'm like, look this guy up, go say hi to him. So are you in Sydney?
I'm in Sydney, yeah. I'm in Waterloo in
Cool.
Sydney. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Anyone that wants to catch up, feel free to reach out.
Cool.
But yeah, we'll definitely, we're planning a trip to Bali as soon as the borders open. Like, we need to get out. We're going stir crazy without a holiday, but we'll definitely hit you up when we're coming over for sure.
Oh my God, please do. It'd be so good to wrap my arms around you and give you a big hug and and just say what's up. And then for anybody who's looking to find you on the internet, you guys can follow at the Dan Megson. I'll post it in the comments. And if people want to come track you down in real life, maybe to do some training with you, or you know, benefit from the way that you impact others, how can they find you?
So I work out of a gym called the Optimal Lab in St Leonard's. It's a new gym that's just opened up. So if they want some physical training and they want to thrash themselves with some aerobic capacity work, that's where I'll be. Either lying on the floor in a world of pain from my own training, or having someone else on the floor. Otherwise, just reach out through socials, and I'm happy to meet people for a coffee and have a chat. I run an early morning Wednesday run, a sunrise run every Wednesday from Bondi to Coogee, that everyone's available to, anyone that wants to come can attend, and we usually grab a coffee and shoot the shit afterwards. And then every Friday I do a swim run in Clovelly as well. So again, everyone's welcome. We grab coffee and shoot the shit afterwards.
Amazing.
That's it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
No worries.
Have a wonderful day off with your dogs.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your rainy day. Get snuggled up and watch some movies or something.
Yeah, I mean, I just moved, so I'm doing all the home decor stuff right now, so I'm like really pumped about it. Yeah.
Well, enjoy it, and thanks again for having me. It's been a pleasure. Lots of love.
Cool.
Bye.